Omnisciencia.
It's the final round of the National Spanish Spelling Bee, and Santa Teresa Middle School 8th grader Andres Arreola is one word away from defending his 2014 title.
Omnisciencia. Omnisciencia. Omnisciencia.
Correcto.
I feel so good about wanting because, it's something like you wished for, and now you know you got it. So it was like a magical moment that you feel.
It's the fourth year in a row a student from the Gadsden Independent School District has won, but it might not be a coincidence. The National Spanish Spelling Bee actually got its start in Gadsden as a district-wide competition. It became the model for the New Mexico Association of Bilingual Education's state competition, where David Briseño was working at the time.
I asked the question, I said, why is there not a national event that we can send our students to, our winners to, so that they can continue to compete?
This was the 5th annual National Spanish Spelling Bee at the National Hispanic Cultural Center in Albuquerque. Briseño says though the Spanish Spelling Bee has come a long way, it was long overdue. Despite the fact that both his parents were native Spanish speakers, Briseño says he didn't learn Spanish in school.
Because my parents went through that era where you were punished in school for speaking Spanish. And so they wanted to make sure that we weren't being punished, that we understood the language, because when they entered school, all they could speak was Spanish.
Briseño says these days there are more English as a second language and bilingual programs in schools, but those old attitudes are still influencing the education choices parents are making for their kids.
The language of Spanish and how it's looked upon, it's actually in our country sometimes looked upon as a second-class language. So I think events like ours, the National Spanish Spelling Bee, actually elevate the status of the language among the group of students who are participating in it.
Briseño says the Spanish Spelling Bee celebrates bilingualism and encourages native Spanish speakers like Andres Arreola, who says he's had a lot of support from friends at school in Santa Teresa.
They were actually impressed of saying, "You're going to spelling bee, oh my God, good luck."
But it's not just native Spanish speakers like Arreola competing in the National Spanish Spelling Bee. About half of the competitors are learning Spanish as a second language, coming from as far away as Virginia, Massachusetts, and Florida.
I remember talking to somebody and they said, well, those Mexican kids ought to be doing pretty well in that, if they, because they speak Spanish. I said, well, that's not how it goes. And by the way, I said, it's not all Mexican kids. This is a very diverse group of students that comes together from throughout the country to participate in the National Spanish Spelling Bee. If you were to take a look at the picture of those who've been participating, you would take those words and eat them.
A 2013 Michigan State University study in Texas showed native English speakers enrolled in bilingual education perform much better on math and reading tests than students at schools without those programs. And New Mexico's standardized test data indicates that trend runs true through much of the state's schools with bilingual programs. But Briseño says if the National Spanish Spelling Bee is going to convince more American parents of the benefits of Spanish and bilingual education, it has got a lot of catching up to do with the English Spelling Bee, especially in terms of exposure and financial sponsors willing to pay for competitors, airfares, and hotel accommodation.
I get a sense of loss because there's another student that could have been here that wasn't because of money.
Though this year's Spanish Spelling Bee saw students from more states than ever before, the 28 competitors were only from 8 different states. Briseño says next year the National Spanish Spelling Bee will relocate from Albuquerque to San Antonio, Texas to expand its reach.
This thing needs to grow. I would love to see a network of sponsors nationally. I want to see representation from all 50 states. I'd like to see that representation of sponsors, of networks, and so that there are sources of pay for our students that want to come in and participate. So parents don't have to take the brunt of having to pay for the airfare, the hotel costs.
Two-time champion Andres Arreola will be going into the 9th grade next year and won't be eligible to compete, but he's rooting for another Gadsden champ.
I think the kids should get in this because you meet new people, you feel good, you travel, and I don't know, you can win $500.
Briseño and others might argue everyone wins with an increased appreciation for learning a second language. For KRWG, I'm Simon Thompson.